and there is, we can see there is a little smaller distolingual cusp. So we can see the other cusp from this aspect, that is the other distal mesiolingual and the mesiobuccal cusp can be observed from this view over the maxillary second molar. Cervical flattening and the concavity is not present on the distal aspect of the maxillary second molar. No cervical flattening is present. No cervical flattening or concavity is present. ठीक है, this was all about the proximal aspects. छोटा सा ये दांत है. Flattening. It is hard to write. Okay, so now we will move towards the occlusal view of the maxillary second molar. Now we go towards the occlusal morphology. On the occlusal surface, the two shapes are observed in the maxillary second molar, that is the rhomboidal shape and the heart-shaped. You can see this shape is rhomboidal with having sharp line angles like this mesiobuccal, and the distolingual line angles are acute. These are the this is the mesial surface, this is the mesial surface, and this is the buccal surface. So this line angle is acute, and the distolingual angles, this is the distal surface, and these are obtuse, right? So in angles का उन्होंने mention किया हुआ, and there is no cusp of cerebella, as I have already mentioned, and we can see the diminished distolingual cusp. There is distolingual cusp is diminished on the occlusal surface. ठीक है, and there is another shape, that is the heart shaped, present on the maxillary second molar. Now we observe there are possible at least 3 cusps are present, and the fourth cusp, that is the distolingual cusp, it is smaller in size, smallest of all cusps. The largest of all is the mesiolingual cusp, then there is mesiobuccal cusp, after mesiobuccal cusp comes the distobuccal cusp, and then the smallest of all is the distolingual cusp. Here I will write it, the largest of all is the mesiolingual cusp, then comes the mesiobuccal cusp. After mesiobuccal cusp we have the distobuccal cusp, and the smallest of all is the distolingual cusp. Okay, now we'll move forward towards the occlusal surface. So I have told you the two shapes are observed in the maxillary second molar. The first one is the rhomboidal shape. As you can see, this shape is rhomboidal in shape, and it has got 4 cusps in its occlusal morphology. The 4 cusps are present. That is the mesiobuccal cusp, distobuccal cusp, mesiolingual cusp, and the distolingual cusp, right? I have mentioned all these cusps. And the other morphology is a heart shaped. You all know the shape of heart. सबको पता होता है, ठीक है? This is the shape of heart, which is present, which resembles to this occlusal morphology of maxillary second molar, and it is the commonest variation which is present in the maxillary second molars. They are rhomboidal or either heart shaped. Heart shaped is it does not have the distolingual cusp. It has the distolingual groove, but it does not extend towards the occlusal margin on its lingual aspect. यहाँ तक ये extend नहीं करती. That's why हमारे पास ये जो cusp है ये एक largest या कभी कभी यहाँ तक सिर्फ ये extend करेगा, occlusal morphology में नहीं जाएगा. ठीक है. And we do not we observe the lingual cusp as a single large cusp on the occlusal aspect. So here we have the rhomboidal shape and the tricuspid form, that is the heart shaped. ठीक है. And we observe the more supplementary grooves are present on the occlusal aspect. And there is same mesio-buccolingual dimension and the mesiodistal dimension. The buccolingual dimension is same as that of maxillary first molar and a bit shorter on the mesiodistal aspect. So we have got the two morphological shapes on the occlusal view, that is the heart shaped or the rhomboidal shape. So this distolingual cusp on the heart shape may be absent due to this short distolingual groove which does not extend towards the occlusal margin. So the distolingual cusp is absent in the heart-shaped maxillary second molar, as the distolingual groove does not extend over the lingual margin. So it has the same three fossas present on its occlusal aspect. The one is the distal fossa. This is the distal fossa, in which there is a distal pit present from where the distolingual groove arises towards the lingual surface, and there is a distobuccal triangular groove and the distolingual triangular groove. Here distolingual triangular groove यहाँ पर कहीं है, but distolingual triangular groove is it is present it is present over this occlusal surface. I have seen two books, but none of them have explained these fossas or pits in their books, but there is a distolingual groove present which arises from this distal pit, and there is a distobuccal triangular groove which arises from this distal pit. Here we can see that is a central pit present from where the buccal groove arises and travels over the buccal surface, and there is a mesial part of central groove and the distal part of central groove meeting at this central pit. So this is the central fossa of this maxillary second molar, and there is a mesial fossa where the mesial pit is present, and from here mesiobuccal triangular groove and the distobuccal triangular groove arises. ठीक है. This was about the fossas and the pits present on the occlusal view. On the heart shaped, we can see the central pit is present from where arises the buccal groove and the mesial part of the central groove and the distal part of the central groove. We can see a distal fossa and a mesial fossa from where the triangular grooves arises, and there are more supplementary grooves present over this. Supplementary grooves इसमें ज़्यादा हैं, especially in heart shape there are more supplementary grooves present, as there is no distolingual groove hardly arises and travels over the lingual margin. So we can see where the distolingual groove does not extend toward the lingual margin, the distolingual cusp is commonly absent over here. ठीक है. And the distolingual cusp is not present, and we can see the a large lingual cusp over the occlusal surface. Understand? Here we can see the morphology of the heart-shaped and the occlusal morphology of the rhomboidal shape. Rhomboidal shape and heart shape, where it has more supplementary grooves than the rhomboidal one. Okay. So now we will study the roots. There is not much difference. The length of the roots is same as that of the maxillary first molar, as you can see, but it shows more distal deflection in the apical. This area you can see this is more distally deflected as compared to first molar, and the length of root is same. Uski bhi, I think it was up to 13 to 14 mm, and the distal the palatal root is the larger one, and there is two buccal roots present, the mesiobuccal root and the distobuccal root, and it has got how many canals? The three canals. ठीक है, three canals present होती हैं upper में, and there is the palatal root is larger one, or it may be a bit um, more in length as compared to the other two roots. If we do the cross section, in the cross section, the palatal root cross section में there is mesiodistal more mesiodistal dimension than the buccolingual dimension in the palatal root. ठीक है, and in the other two roots they are ovoid or circular in shape, the other two root section. ठीक है, and there is nothing more in the root section of this maxillary second molar. I hope you guys understand it. Now there in the anomalies there are variation as three cuspal type, cuspal variation है, and there is root variation can be present. There could be fused roots present, and the deflections of the roots can be abnormal, or they are more deflections or curvatures can be present in the root area, and there may be a buccal tubercle present, or a tubercle on the occlusal surface of the maxillary second molar can be present in the root section. I hope you all understand the maxillary second molar. It is a small small tooth. I hope you all understand it, and you will give the feedback regarding the lecture.